Well, hello, good evening, good afternoon from all around the world, wherever you may be watching us here today. Apologies for the slightly late start today. We had unexpected delay to get the stream going, but we're all fixed now and we're ready to go. So comments are not live on the channel yet. They will be in a moment, and you can see an unfamiliar face is not on the grid. Sorry, I want to apologise and start that again. A familiar face is not on the grid. Nibbler is not on the grid, which almost guarantees pole position for his teammate. I say almost because he was just under half a tenth of a second gap between himself and Danny Ibn Laha. So he could legitimately have a very close race for the lead here today, as Nibbler has not made it, it seems. He has a little time. If he's got an invite, he should be able to get in for the race, but if not, unfortunately he's missed it and will be out for round number 3, and his teammate Chazza will look to take the reins and make an indent into the Drivers' Championship, but to keep the Constructors' Championship alive for Ferrari. So getting ready to go racing once again here in China. You can see it's Chazza that will lead from pole position, only just though from Danny Ibn Laha. And then you have Testameister, and a very good result for Dougie Aframan landing up in P4, the first in the men under a second. Anil Tanovich landing up P5. Lord George, a good performance for him in P6. Kevin Jacobs, another good performance up in 7th. Then you have Beamer Black, Subaru Ryan, Galactical 2, Murcielago, Ragnar 184, and Nemesis Racing bringing up the rear of the grid. So we will see what can go on here. We've got someone saying, we got Nom... Let me get through these comments. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Non-Micro Strees says Daniel. I'm not sure what you mean, mate. Who, if you let me know, I'm not sure who Daniel is. But let me know. Dan Hobson says, Lord George, the family is watching. No pressure for him then. Danny G also says, shout out to Lord George, watching on the iPad again at his house. So we've got 2 Lord George fans in the booth for today's race. I'm not sure who Daniel is, however. He could be referencing to Daniel Shields, Norfolk Blue, who was in last season. He's not in this season. Other than that, I'm not sure. So please do let me know who you're referencing by the PSN ID, and I can track that down for you. But unfortunately, I don't know of a Daniel off the top of my head. So they're going around now for the formation lap. Excuse me, I'm just going to mute while I clear my throat real quick. Getting ready for the race ahead. A big cough to get out of the way. You can see Lactic Skull 2 and Ragnar have been disqualified from the formation lap already. They're not disqualified from the race. It just means they can't participate in the formation lap. They can't warm their tyres up and such, as they made collision. They made collisions with each other on the starting grid. They're pulling away. Ricardo Lamfranconi says, good, Danny. Danny, another support for Danny Ibn Laha in P2. Looks like he's in the best opportunity he's had all season to take a win here. He'll be looking forward to bringing it home for the Italians. He'll have to beat the Brit man of Chazza and defend from his team at Testameister. Maybe even Dougie Aframan on the opening lap, though, if he wants to win here today. King Mac 14 is here cheering on the Brits of Afra and Galactic Skull 2. So we've got fans from all over the world today. We got Italian fans supporting Danny, by the looks of things. We've got the Brits supporting Lord George, Afra and Galactic. So we'll have to see who comes out on top of who after lap 1. And then we can see where the race goes from there. But for right now, you have your lovely formation lap going on as we look forward down the grid. Let's take a look at what tyres are being brought into play today. We can bring them up for you. You can see everyone up into P8 is running the Ultra Soft. Then you have Subaru Ryan, Glad Skull 2, Murcielago, Ragnar and Nemesis opting for different compounds. Nemesis being the only man to start on the mediums will have not a lot of grip on the early phases, so it will be a struggle for Nemesis Racing to get the power down early on in this race, but the rest up front are in the Ultra Soft, and that will die very quickly compared to the softs and mediums. So we're lining up on the grid, getting ready to go. Ready for China, 28 laps. Best qualifying for Testameister and Dougie Aframan this season. They'll be looking to make good gains on the first lap. Chazza starts from pole position. for the first time this season. Looking to take the win now. His teammate isn't in here to interfere, so here we get ready for 5 red lights. Lights out, and away we go, and it looks like Danny gets a very good start. He could very much challenge into turn 1. Danny into the lead, into turn 1. Chazza will fall in second. Dougie Afroman takes third, away from Tester Meister on the podium for the Scotsman. Chazza trying to come back on the inside of Danny Ibn Lahada. Now has the outside line. Danny has the inside like a defender. 2-minute contact at the front. Chazza still on the outside, getting squeezed out, but will now have the run on the inside down into turn 4 as they come. We ride on board with a Ferrari. Danny gets ahead though on the early lap. Dougie Afroman wins the podium scrap. You can see the McLaren of Anil Tanovic getting involved as well. Very late move from the McLaren of Beamer Black, taps the back of Kevin Jacobs, and Lord Joe gets a little bit caught up in that as well. We can see the Red Bull going side by side with Beamer Black, and Lord Joe going very slowly around the next set of corner. Looks like he might have front wing damage, loses the position to the Red Bull, now comes under threat from the McLaren immediately after, and looking to try get through the windy section, looking up the inside. Beamer Black side by side with Lord Joe now, contact on the start and more contact, and the McLaren gets away safely. We have Ragnar going very wide, and the Toro Rosso will now have something to say with Beamer Black as he's knocking down the marker boards. He's now under pressure from the sister car, Murcielago, down the inside. Through on the Toro Rosso is he's got the job done. Yes, he has. So now down the back straight we come for the first time. Is Chazza going to be close enough to make a move? If we're going to see a lot of moves, it'll be here, just like Anil Tanovic and Beamer Black and the McLarens looking to make moves on their retrospective partners. See, Beamer Black switches to the inside line as we drag down into the very steep hairpin. We can see the Sauber and the Haas getting in it a little bit in the background. We can see Dougie Afroman's losing his podium position, but now he's going side by side with Testermeister into the final corner. That's not going to work out for either of them. Now Anil Tanovic will get a very lovely run on the Scotsman as a result. As the Scotsman in the Sauber goes defensive, Anil Tanovic on the outside looking to go around the outside of the snail section. And around they go, now switches to the inside. Good move for Anil Tanovic on the Sauber. If he can hold that position, very wise move. Kevin Jacobs getting involved in that fight now as well, of course. These two teammates in different series, Kevin Jacobs and Dougie Afroman, so these two will respect each other's driving styles just a little bit more than the rest of the field will respect each other. As Dougie Afroman looks to send a dive on Anil Tanovic, but that would be from an awful long way back. I'm sure he would have scared Anil Tanovic, but no move coming from the Sauber at this part of the race. To the infield section we go. We can see Chazza making gains on Danny Ibn Lahar on this lap. The gap down to just over 0.2 of a second, fluctuating between gaps of around half a second, and he'll hope to get a very good run out the final corner onto that big long straight, and then he can have a go, and a big double lockup from the Ferrari could interfere with his plans. A long way to go in this race, Sturler. 26 laps to go, and these boys are going at it and getting into it straight away. Now, this is a very good run. He'll need overtake, rich revs, and just about everything he can throw at the Renault, because you can bet the Renault will be throwing the same at him, and the Ferrari effectively only have to slipstream to pull him along. Now, will Chazza go for the inside? Looks like he'll go for the outside, try scare Danny off the racing line. That's going to compromise Danny's exit, and now Chazza should get a better exit, but no, Danny controls that very well. Great stuff from the Italian. Kevin Jacobs, Dougie Afroman, and Subaru Ryan look like they've made contact with each other, though, as there was a big three abreast battle coming out of the hairpin. Now, Subaru Ryan looking to go all the way around the outside. He completes that move off the track, though, so he'll have to surrender it to Kevin Jacobs as they run side by side up towards turn 1 they come. Surely Kevin will take the position back. No, a little bit of lag. Subaru Ryan on the soft tyres doesn't have as much grip. What a move by Kevin Jacobs to switch to the inside, though, but contact with the Red Bull forces them both wide, and the Red Bull looking to get a bit more involved. Meanwhile, Anil Tanovic has made the move on Tester Meister and has got him past. Anil Tanovic up on the podium, dethrones one of the Renaults. Now the Renault looking to try go clean around the outside, but goes a little bit deep. That's just going to slow him down. But he gets an awesome run on Anil Tanovic and just drives past him like he's not even there. Anil Tanovic looked like he was in the wrong gear and had no traction coming out that corner, but now has the run potentially for the outside if he can get it close to the apex. That's what he wants to do. They're holding each other up through this middle sector. A fierce battle. Tester Meister goes wide once again. That's going to give the opportunity to Anil Tanovic, but the understeer generated in that turbulent air will end that fight as we know it, and these two will get to work. Meanwhile, Chazza looked very close to Danny Ibn Lahar the last time we checked up with him, and look at that. Danny lost traction on the rear. He had to let go of the throttle through the final corner. That's going to give the Ferrari the opportunity to make the move into the hairpin. He pulls to the outside. DRS assistance for the Ferrari this time around. And it's advantage Ferrari going into the hairpin. Can he outbrake Danny, or will Danny be the last of the late breakers? Danny's still there Chazza looking to go clean around the outside, but goes a bit deep. But he has the inside line, all crucially, for the final corner. And Chazza, in the Ferrari, into the lead on lap 3. Takes back that pole position spot. And now it will be the return favour coming from the Renault, as he will have DRS into turn 1. Will he be able to get close enough? He gets an awesome run, goes to the inside line, and can he take it back immediately? Chazza tries to hold it on the outside. He'll have the inside line for the second part of the snail section. If he can do it, the banging cars together this whole time. Contact. The Renault goes a little bit wide. Chazza holds on for now, though, but Danny's still there. Danny is very much still in the fight. Riding on board with the Renault, looking to the outside. Now the inside. Daniel Ricciardo, let's move. Very late on the brace. The double lock-up for Chazza will concede the position to the Renault once again. But they'll side by side, they will go. The Chazza in the Ferrari still there, has the inside line, has the advantage. Who will go where? Clean around the outside for Danny. If he can find the grip out there, he's sorted. But it's going to be very hard to find that kind of grip. And now Chazza tries to go all the way around the outside and will have the inside line. But the next section, Danny's still there on the outside, off the track, and succumbs the position to Chazza finally. And we will have to wait and see how this unfolds down the next back straight. We have cars going everywhere in the background in the battle of Subaru Ryan versus Testameister. I tell you, Subaru Ryan has got an amazing pace on these harder compound tyres. Remember, he's on the softs. He can go longer than everybody in front of him. Amazing pace by the Red Bull on those harder compound tyre. Dougie Afro, man. Now closing in on Testameister. Once again, it'll be a little bit tricky. See Lord George UK chasing down Kevin Jacobs down the back straight. He should have DRS. Kevin goes very defensive, defending thin air, it has to be said. George should have gone over for the slipstream, did not. Very late on the brakes from the Mercedes, closes the gap, and Kevin Jacob goes a bit wide. Meanwhile, Chazza has come into the pits. So Chazza succumbs to lead. Lord George and Kevin Jacobs getting into it. Kevin goes into the pit lane. Lord George carries on. That could have been an airplane crash. 5-second stop-go penalty for Testameister for speeding in the pit lane. Will hinder his chances. We have a car on the grass of Murcielago in that battle down the front straight away. On the outside of the Toro Rosso. These guys all running on soft compound tyres that can go a bit longer at the expense of some initial grip. Galactic Skull 2's in there as well. 4-horse race through the snail section. Ragnar getting a good run on Beamer Black, it has to be said. Will look to go down the inside into the next corner. Oh, contact! Big contact! Beamer goes off. Ragnar takes him off. Oh, and he comes back on the track and hits Galactic Skull. Galactic Skull does get away with it. That could have been absolutely monstrous. We have a McLaren in the wall. Is that the McLaren out of this race? Oh dear, there has been contact. Beamer's not happy, he's not moving. Aneltanovic will drive past and see his wounded teammate in the wall. As the Beamer Black car, is it going to get going or is it out of this race? Looks like Beamer's race is all but done. Galactic Skull 2 then has been, Beamer Black gets disqualified for parked in a dangerous location. Wow, I'm sure that'll be investigated. We caught that live. Wasn't that wild? Crazy racing going on. Down the back straight we go then. We have a Sector 2 yellow flag as they move that car away. Galactic Skull 2 using all the power. Now looks to the outside of Murcielago on the racing line. Can he outbrake him? Go clean around the outside. He'll want to do a switchback maneuver. He tries to do it, but Murcielago positions his car very well, but Colin has the traction. Looks to go around the outside. Can he do it around the outside of the final turn? Yes, he can. Goes off the track in doing so, but he's done it. Meanwhile, Danny into pit lane to cover off the undercut from Chazza. Can the overcut work for the Renault here? They were side by side going into the pits. Here is Chazza then, coming down the front straight away, and here's Danny. There goes Chazza, and look at the benefit of the undercut. A huge gap in favour of Chazza due to the fresh tyres. Dougie Afroman in the pits. Ragnar will follow suit, I'm assuming with some front wing damage. You can see they take the front wing off the front of that Toro Rosso. Lord Jord follows the rest of the guys into pit lane. So Subaru has the lead from the top four, all running the soft compound tyre, but your net leader will be Chazza. And what a gap he has got from that undercut on Danny Ibn Lahar. Good strategy call. We have Ricardo cheering on his compatriot of Danny, F1 and YTK. Welcome to the channel, buddy. The first time we've seen you around these parts. Hope you're enjoying the lovely race courtesy of Nemesis Online Racing League. 8/10 of a second there. Separate Murcielago and Galactic Skull 2 as we head towards the final corner. This is the closest gap on track. Now, it's a case of who's running the most and less downforce. Now, the most downforce you have, the more downforce you have, for those who aren't aware, better turning you get at the sake of top line speed and vice versa. So if you run lower downforce, you get more top speed, but a lot less cornering ability. And that will show who's running what down the backstrip. As you can see, Murcielago is running quite a high level, as he struggled to keep up with a Sauber down the backstrip. Now the soft runners continue, they don't need to pit just yet. You can see who's on what tyre. Danny Ibn Lahar on the ultra soft again, the mixed strategy for Chazza and Danny. Now is Chazza attempting a one stop here? Danny either way has gone for a second pair of ultra soft, so Danny will be faster at this stage in the Grand Prix. But his tyres will, and I mean will not make it to the end. There's no doubt in my mind that them tyres will struggle to make it to the end. Dougie Afroman chases down Kevin Jacobs in front of him. Looking for the inside line, the opportunity. No opportunities coming his way just yet. Dougie's still there, hanging on. Chases Kevin Jacobs down to turn 4 they go. Switches to the inside line, very late defense from Kevin Jacobs. Scares Dougie Afroman into the advertising boards and contact on the exit. Wow, crazy racing going on between the two former teammates, and Kevin Jacobs loses it all on his own around the final corner. Can he save it? He just saves it. Wow, that's unbelievable drifting school from Kevin Jacob. Ragnar chases down Lord George. Chazza's made the move for P4 on Murcielago meanwhile. Now both these guys have pitted, but Ragnar looks like he's attempting the one stop, as is his compatriot of Nemesis Racing. Team of Black leaves the session. Meanwhile, Murcielago takes the position back from Chazza. That's going to help Danny in his pursuit. Chazza will be flustered. He would not have expected Murcielago to fight that hard, as he'll now have another go toward turn 1. Danny sets the fastest lap meanwhile. All this playing in favour of the Renault right now. Chazza looking for an inside manoeuvre. Goes to the inside of the snail section. Murcielago on the outside will have the inside line for the next corner if he dare fight it, but he finally succumbs the position to Chazza. Now it's all the case of how hard does he fight Danny. And look at the traction Danny has. It's just not even a contest at this point. And he could just clearly drive around the outside. And if he can hang it on the outside, he just has the grip to stay there. And he could just clean out drag him just because his tyres are much newer and they're a much softer compound. They offer so much more grip. And it's just not even a contest for Danny, who has significantly reduced the gap gained by Chazza's undercut. You know, Lord George UK has lost the position to Ragnar. Tries to stay with him. Ragnar gets the job done on the harder compound tyre. And Lord George will bring up the rear then, as Danny Ibn Lahar is now within 0.6 of a second of Chazza. Because he has so much more traction than Chazza, but he's going to have to pit a lot sooner. Now, all these drivers do have to pit light. We have a yellow flag in Sector 2. Oh, that's because Kevin Jacobs has found himself in the wall and retires from the Chinese Grand Prix. Kevin Jacobs is out of the Chinese Grand Prix after another crash. It did look like he was struggling for grip. Galactic Skull 2 is chasing down Nemesis Racing. Is that rain? It is starting to rain, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, wow, wow. We have raining the last sector. Rain down the front straight away. Rain is starting to affect this race as Lord George is challenging Ragnar. He needs to get in that slipstream a bit more and use it all to himself. But now he could go down the inside, side by side with Ragnar. Ragnar won't have the grip to defend this one as he aggressively cuts the nose off of Ragnar to get that position done and dusted. But it is starting to rain in China. Very interesting. Now this could be a masterclass for people like Subaru Ryan and Nemesis. Oh, Ragnar's gone! Ragnar's gone on the slippery curb on the outside! And Ragnar is out of the Chinese Grand Prix! It's all gone wrong. And Ragnar is the next on our list of victims. Meanwhile, look at this little change. Chaz has caught the battle between Nemesis and Galactic Skull. Now these guys are battling for position, so they don't have to get out the way. They've got to do their own work. So up the slipstream fest we begin. Nemesis leads Galactic Skull, leads Chazza, leads Danny. Danny has the better tyres in this stage of the race. Nemesis will be struggling for grip, but not as much as Galactic Skull because he's yet to pit. Chazza looking to get past these guys as quick as can. Danny looks like he doesn't want to lose as much time as Galactic Skull 2 focuses on passing that Haas, and Chazza will just try not to get involved if he can. Is he going to make it a free abreast situation? 2 cars in 1 maneuver? No! He can't outbrake Galactic Skull 2. And Galactic Skull 2 holds up the Ferrari, but makes the move on the Haas. Good stuff from Galactic Skull 2 in the Sauber. Now, this is a masterclass for the guys on medium tyres right now, because if they can make it to the phase of the race where they need to pit for rain tyres, they effectively lose 1 stop, and they can make a huge gain out of it as Chaz are desperate to find a way past, as Danny desperate to find a way past Nemesis. As there he goes on the inside, and Nemesis tries to hold it though on the inside. He will stay. Galactic Skulls on the grass, loses a lot of time and loses a position to both the leaders. But now Danny's on the inside of Chazza to retake the lead of the race into turn 4 on lap 10. Chazza's going to be down on the outside, but Danny should have a better grip, but he just does not because he's not on the racing line. And Chazza is still in there for the fight. Chazza still getting involved in this fight. As Chazza leads then, he's got the better compound tyres because Danny's will be reaching the cliff at this stage in the race. And he's really struggling for grip, is the Renault chasing down the Ferrari because the ultra soft tyres give out about this stage in the race. The ultra softs will have run out of grip. However, if they can just make it to the pit window, when the rain settles in and it becomes too wet to stay on dry tyres, we have yellow flags in sector 3. Have we lost the car? We have. Galactic Skull 2 finds himself in the grass through the final corner. That will aid him in his teammates' pursuit, will it? His teammates actually very close to him. Look at that. It's just so wet. These guys need to get in now. I think the time for wet tyres is now, because Colin has no grip whatsoever. But the guys are opted to stay out, and it's really going to be a case of who blinks first. We've got Ricardo in the chat cheering on Danny once again. Danny still has some work to do though, unfortunately, for Ricardo and the other Danny fans in the chat today. Danny G is really enjoying the race so far, and I'm glad to see it. We have a yellow flag in sector 3. I have a feeling that's Galactic Skull 2. He's gone again. He's gone to pit for wet tyres, and just like Lewis Hamilton in 2007, he just could not stop. And has lost his front wing. Luckily for him, there's no gravel there anymore, so he can't get stuck like Hamilton. But he's gone straight on and lost his front wing. And are these guys the first to pit then for wet tyres? Intermediate tyres go on the Sauber. What are going on the Mercedes? More soft compound tyres. Oh dear, could this be an absolute nightmare for Mercedes? I think Mercedes have put on the wrong compound tyre for Lord George. He's gone out on another set of dry compound tyres, and the rain's only getting worse. One of these guys has made the wrong decision. One of these guys has made a massively wrong decision. The Galactic Skull 2, and there's a 5-second stop-go penalty for Lord George for crossing the pit exit line. And there he goes, around he goes. So we know who's made the wrong decision. Lord George makes the wrong decision as he pitted for dry tyres on a wet track. Now, Galactic Skull 2 is the first man on these wet compound tyres. He will be the fastest man on circuit, arguably with a front wing change, however. That's going to kind of nullify any advantage he finds. But it is definitely time. Subaru Ryan then pits, the first of the leaders to pit for wet tyres. This could be a masterclass. Chazza follows him in. Danny follows him in. This is a masterclass from Subaru Ryan. And Altanovic and Murcielago opt to stay out. Now that's going to be very interesting because these guys are going to be on absolutely no grip whatsoever. Now this is very interesting because Danny's pitted for ultra softs. Okay, so Danny is pitting for intermediates. That was a graphic delay there. Chazza comes out. Subaru Ryan has pulled it off though, and now takes the net lead of this race. He hadn't pitted at all until this point in the race. Masterclass by Ryan. Now he's just got to stay ahead. He's put himself in the position to win it. He's now just got to stay there. Murcielago and Aneltanovic have no grip, and Nemesis is going to be struggling all the while. Now, these guys are really going to be struggling. 9/10 of a second is the gap between Anel and Murcielago, but they really can't afford to do any battling. And just look at them searching for any kind of grip, and you'll just see, watch the gap. 7.4 seconds is the gap between Murcielago and Subaru in the same car. Now, Dougie Aframan pits for wet tyres as well. But 7.4, and look at that in the first sector, 7.4 to 7.0. He loses a little bit of time through the middle sector, but he's gaining pretty big already. The top three will pit on this lap. They've got to. 6.9. Subaru's got no heat in his tyres, and he's struggling for grip. all the while anyway, as Aneltanovic has taken the lead because Nemesis has made a mistake on the wet track. This race just became a wet track, dry challenge, wet track, dry tyres challenge for Nemesis Racing, and he failed the challenge. Murcielago closes in a bit as well. Lord Jord in the pits for a set of intermediates. He's made a huge strategy error, and he will have to pit. DRS Disable confirms how wet this track is. 1 second is the gap between the leaders, but they've all got to pit. And so Subaru Ryan, and there goes Murcielago straight off the circuit. No grip whatsoever out there. He can't stop. And you can see over 2 seconds now, Subaru is getting on this lap alone. So it's time for wet tyres, the top three. Oh, and he's done the same as Galactic Skull too. He just couldn't stop because it's too wet. And he almost spins getting on the throttle again. Nightmare for Murcielago. His race is in tatters. Subaru Ryan then leads the way from Chazza. What a masterclass by Subaru on the strategy there. Danny in P3. And the battle resumes with 15 laps in this race left to go. Both leaving pit lane. And around they go. We got huge repairs going on the Red Bull car. Through we go then. Subaru Ryan leads the way from Chazza in the Ferrari, who will try to hunt him down. Who has the better Weber pace? Testermeister now takes P6 away. What a story of what could have been again for Testermeister here today. Nemesis Racing up into P5 has gained massively from the pit stops as well. The big losers really are Tester to Lord Jord. Everyone from P6 to P10 has either made a strategy error or has had some unfortunate case happen to them, some unfortunate scenario has effectively ruled them out of this race. But Nemesis Racing really gaining on Aneltanovic, but he's really struggling for grip, going too fast around the snail section now. The people who pick the higher downforce setups for this race are going to be quids in here because they're going to have the more downforce in the tricky, slow corners. You don't really need low downforce in the rain. There's no point in low downforce in the rain because you struggle to get the power down. Meanwhile, Chazza looks a lot more confident in these conditions than Subaru Ryan. Subaru Ryan does lead the way because he made the best strategy call of anybody today, but he's now got to back himself up with the pace to prove he deserves to stay on there. Because if he doesn't have the pace and Chazza senses that, Chazza will pick him off like he's not even there. He goes very wide and loses a good half a second to Chazza through the final corner. So Chazza gaining. Trying not to make any mistakes of his own, of course. I don't want to lock up and put you right back where you came from. But Subaru's searching for any kind of grip he can find. And he's clear that Subaru's under pressure. Never been faced with this kind of heat from a man like Chazza before. Oh, loses the rear end, holds on to her. Around the final corner they go, down the inside. And around they go. Holds out on the outside, but there's still no grip for Chazza available. Frustrating time for the leaders. They both have about the same levels of tyre grip as each other. So this is a 2-horse race right now, unless Danny can close in and make it a 3-horse race. But you got to be very careful doing the dance in the rain, because things like that can happen. Big slide for Chazza. I wish we could get a replay. That was a big old slide. Almost lost it in a straight line, but good save from Chazza. Loses nothing more than a few tenths of a second rather than the whole race. Subaru Ryan then looking a bit more comfortable now. He looks like he's finding his groove a little bit. He really struggled on the last lap when Chazza closed in, but now Chazza's closed in. Chazza can't seem to get near. He's closed the gap to within a second, but he can't get near at this stage in the race. 7 tenths of a second still separates them. As Danny's closed in by about half a second on this lap. The Danny's very comfortable in the rain, is closing in steadily, slowly but surely. He's still in this race, 14 laps to go. What an interesting time it's going to be in those 14 laps, because the rain could stop again. Dan Hobson ragging Lord Jord in the chat, asking if he's going to try mountain bike tyres next time. It probably would have offered him more grip than the slicks, wouldn't it? It was a... yeah, I don't know the situation, but it was a very bad call. And it could have just been a case of he forgot to select what tyres he wanted to pit for. Of course, you've got to select the tyres and you've got to confirm it. He might just have forgot to confirm it, or he forgot to tell the team what tyres he wanted, and they just assumed he wanted slicks, but it's all been a nightmare, and Lord Jord is pretty much out of this race with 14 laps to go. But Chazza's gaining like a madman through the snail section. Around the final corner they come, not the final corner of the snail sector. Down towards turn 4, Chazza's there, he's in for the hunt. Right on board with a bright red, scarlet red Ferrari. Trying to get involved. He's trying to move up and get in within a distance of all he can. Through the next sector. Followed by a right. He's pushing, he's got the pace. But of course he's got the spray to contend with from the rear tyres of Subaru Ryan. And it'll be very hard to see anything but that red flashing light. Because he doesn't want to ram Subaru because he can face a penalty or damage from himself. They see Lordjaw coming up to be lapped by these leaders. Subaru goes very wide. Going to give Chazza the opportunity to gain through the final corner. Chazza could very much be in the hunt when we get to the straight. Oh, holding on to her. The rear end slipping out on Chazza. So here we go then. Down the back straight once again. No DRS, just slipstream and the engine and battery modes they have available to them. Tries to late brake. Engine braking very heavily on Chazza's car. Tries slow him down as efficiently as he can. Ryan still leads. Danny Ibn Lahar has not gained this lap. Oh, Ryan's gone off. Ryan's gone very wide. That's going to allow Chazza to drive side by side down the front straightaway into turn 1 or outside. Going around the outside, turn 1. He's got to try it. Subaru has the inside line if Chazza can get for the inside. For the next corner, Subaru's got to cover that off. And he doesn't, he goes wide. And Chazza's still right there. Subaru's got to get the better run if he wants to keep this. To keep the inside line for turn 4, and he does. He keeps the inside line. Chazza's got to go a long way around it. Advantage Red Bull once again. The Red Bull cleans ahead as Chazza looks for a way past. No way past on this occasion. But now he tries to go clean around the outside, which will give him the inside line, of course, for the next snail section that we go through. And the Ferrari cleanly drags ahead with more traction on the racing line. But Ryan throws his nose in for one last ditch attempt. And Chazza takes the lead again on lap 16. They lost a lot of time to Danny in that scrap. But the red Scarlet Ferrari finally passes the Red Bull. He'd been looking to do it for the last couple of laps. Finally gets the job done. And Chazza leads the way then. 8 attempts then separate Murcielago and Testameister. That's our next factor. 7 attempts is the gap as Lordjaw's gone off the track. Assuming to let these two by, but it looks like it was a bit of an unforced error by himself as well. 7 attempts was second then. Between these two, the red one and the Red Bull. But it looks like Chazza has the pace to stay ahead of Subaru Ryan at this stage in the race. Testameister going a bit wide. Opens it up for Murcielago to bring it in within 1 second now. All went wrong for Lordjaw as he's now a minute behind. Danny Ibn Lahar passes him. Overlaps him to compound his misery. 3.1 seconds is the gap between Danny and Subaru Ryan. Can he close in? Does he have the wet weather pace to bring himself back into this? At this stage in the race, I would say no. Doesn't look like he has much. Doesn't look like he has much, does it? It looks like he's struggling. But he'll try his damnedest. And around they go. 8 tenths of a second still, and that's not going to help Murcielago's chances anytime. Loses about half a second, and that battle's pretty much concluded for now. Dougie Afroman closing in. We'll keep an eye on that because he's got 3.1 seconds to find if he wants in on this fight. You can see here's the people that gained big winners in that strategy phase. Nemesis took 1 stop, and Subaru Ryan took 1 stop as well. And the rest around them did a 2 stop. But yeah, Subaru's been a massive, despite not leading the race anymore, he's been a massive gainer of 7 positions. Nemesis gained 8 positions out of it. Good strategy by these guys. They took the chance of stretching the compound tyres out. They obviously looked at the weather report before qualifying and opted to qualify on these harder compound tyres to make it to the rain phase of the race. But luckily for him, Chazza's pace has been his saviour here today. We would have wondered what Nibbler would have been able to do. Nibbler didn't show up, of course, today. So his championship will take a dent quite significantly. Very interesting then. All the racing's pretty much done for right now. Gap's pretty spread out. We'll keep an eye on what goes down from where. We saw Dougie Afroman to gain 3.1 seconds. He's gained 2.3. So he's gained about Just over a second. Pushing like a madman. Loses some time through the final sector. We'll have to see what he can gain. But he is gaining, definitely. He's lost a bit on the backstretch. We have Nemesis Racing coming in for a pit stop. Is Nemesis going to try the full wets here then? Is this a gamble from Haas? Or is this a scheduled stop? We'll find out. Into the pits comes Nemesis. Now Nemesis pitted quite late. He pitted around the same time as everybody else. So this is, you'd assume, for full wets. Yes, Nemesis making the jump to full wets. Murcielago doing the same. Dougie Aframan doing the same. These boys think it's time for the full wet compound tyres now. The rain's got too bad for the intermediates, and a gamble comes out. And there's our intermediates going on. Murcielago's double bluffed and has just gone back out on a set of inters. What will Dougie Aframan do? It looks a similar story. It's more inters for Dougie Aframan. So Nemesis Racing has gone for the full wets. Was that the right decision? Because these guys just went for more intermediates. Whereas Nemesis has gone full wet. We'll keep an eye on Nemesis' pace, because he could have done a master stroke or a huge error. Not quite sure yet. I'll have to give it a few laps to dissipate, but Blowjob wins, then his mum will go skinny dipping in the Thames. That's, I mean, I hope the weather's better in the Thames than it is here, because that's going to be one cold skinny dip. But somehow, something tells me you don't have to worry about that. Not tonight, anyway. I think Lord Jord, being a minute and 15 seconds and overlapped in this race, is going to struggle. Speaking of struggling, Nemesis Racing in P6, Galactic Skull 2 in P7, gaining massively. I think this was the wrong decision from Haas, as it's just not wet enough for the full wet. So the full wets are slower. They're not the optimal tyre. They're not needed right now. Although I will admit, it does look like it's not far away from full wet. So maybe Nemesis has just got to endure the pain early on, and the payback will come to him in a few laps. We'll keep an eye and see if anyone else pits. At the moment, it's a no. Nobody's pitting. Right now, it looks like a bad decision. But the heavens have opened. It's a lot more, like the rain's coming down a lot harder than it has been. So Nemesis Racing might have made the right call too early. As Galactic Skull 2 opts for a pit stop. Now, is this going to be for inters or full wets? Let's find out. This could be crucial. Into the pits comes Galactic Skull 2 then. What's going to happen here? Very interested to see what goes on in the Alfa Romeo Sauber. Is it going to be inters like his teammate, or is it going to be full wets? It looks like another set of inters, and he'll have that communication from his teammate Aframan to confirm that the right tyres was the intermediate. And so they've stuck with their guns and they've gone to inters. They haven't split the strategies. Nemesis remains the only weather running driver, and you can just see how much the wets are struggling. And if he has got to endure some pain to get to the point in a race where the wet tyres favour him, he's got to wait a while, because he's really struggling for grip out there. It's just the wet tyres are the wrong decision, clearly. And it's still very much intermediate weather. Danny Ibn Lahar has closed the gap into 1.7 on Subaru Ryan, so P2's still on the cards for him. But we can try get up our lap data and telemetry and just try to see what Nemesis is doing and see what is in comparison to. He has 78% battery, a lot of battery available. He's just not got the grip, has he? He keeps going off the circuit into new horizons, we'll say. Really struggling out there, the Italian. He tried to gamble, didn't he, from P5. It hasn't paid off. I guess he thought that there's nothing much to lose. We have yellow flags in Sector 3. Who's that? I think that was Dougie Aframan. Judging by his lack of speed, Dougie Aframan's had a spin on the outside curve there, and his teammate comes hunting the P8. No synchronized swimming so far in the wet for the Sauber team. They will go at it head to head, I'm sure. That's called chasing. Trying to get involved on the outside. He is now staying on the inside. Tries slipstream his teammate, but there's going to be so much spray he won't be able to see past his nose. The 98 and the 12 car going into the first snail section of corners. By the way, Danny and Bin Lahar has gained a whole half a second on Subaru Ryan on this lap alone. And that happened all in one big chunk, so I think Subaru Ryan making mistakes under pressure here. Chaz is gone. He's 7 seconds up the road. Danny and Bin Lahar is going to be the next challenger for P2. There's not going to be a fight from Ryan for first today, and there probably won't be a fight from Danny unless Chaz makes a mistake. Meanwhile, speaking of mistakes, the Saubers very nervously dancing around the circuit together because Dougie Aframan's on the grass. xxkillshotzxx takes too much curb. They're both feeling the pressure. Subaru Ryan pits. Now there's going to be full wets or more inters. More inters, so confirming Nemesis's pain is in vain. xxkillshotzxx creeping around, trying to get the grip, but there's just none available to him. And his teammate will have cooked his tyres a little bit on that spin, but it doesn't look to be affecting him that badly. Gotta be careful, they can't make mistakes. Not like they have been doing. Meant to help each other, you're meant to pull each other along. But you've been doing some crazy manoeuvres. xxkillshotzxx is about a second back. It's going to be hard for him to do anything down the back straight. He has a lot of battery stored up. How about his teammate? Teammate doesn't have a lot of battery at all. Now that could play dividends, but I mean, the battery deployment gives you so much more torque that in this stage of the race, it's probably going to be more harmful using the battery than it would be to not. Now, of course, you can use it when you're already up to speed and you've got the momentum, then that will work. But if you're using it from a very slow start, like a hairpin or something, it's only going to hurt you more. But xxkillshotzxx is getting a lot on the final sector of this lap. Follows Dougie Aframan through the first sector. Loses the rear end. Looks for the inside. No inside line available to him this time around. Trying his best. The Aframan showing signs of pressure. Lordjord's gained a lot of time, by the way. Just to put that into a comparison, Lordjord's gained about 20 seconds on these guys after they've made the pit stops, but yeah, he's still looking like he's going to be booking in a first-class seat for 1 point in 10th place. xxkillshotzxx gets on the curb, almost makes an error similar to what his teammate did. Very close indeed. They're trying their utmost. Ooh. Both of them struggling for grip out there. There's just no grip at all. We said synchronized swimming in the form of team orders, but we're seeing synchronized drifting at the moment from the two red and white Alfa Romeo Saubers. None of them able to get close to each other, but they have been able to stay with each other. Now we think, looking at strategy, Danny Ibn Lahar, has taken P2 away because Subaru Ryan pitted, of course. Now Subaru Ryan will try to close in for that podium position away from Anel Tanovic, but Anel Tanovic looks comfortable for right now. And we'll see how well he does staying up in P3. It's very much looking like Anel can take P3 away from Subaru Ryan here today. Subaru Ryan was just not able to keep confidence in his tyres. Nemesis took a gamble on the full wets and it's not worked out for him. He hasn't changed back to the inters yet though, so he's staying with it. xxkillshotzxx gaining on his teammate, but just look at the steering wheel work. There's just no grip and he has to keep micro adjusting every little bit. He has to turn a little bit, turn a little bit. You can see just managing the rear end, especially under power. And I'm sure his teammate will be doing the same ahead, but he's got to close in and catch him. And he's really struggling to do that. They both tried to get on the throttle super early for the wet conditions, and they're just not having it. And the xxkillshotzxx leaves the session. Now, that is either his internet or a game crash, I suspect. Now, his AI will continue driving for him until he can rejoin. But that's going to give the breathing room to his teammate, because the AI is very slow. And away we go then for that battle. Chazza leads quite comfortably from Danny. Anel Tanovic leads quite comfortably from Ryan. Has lost about a second. You just excuse me, I apologise for that. We had a party error, so I had to rejoin a commentary party because I would have been talking in the game like we did Australia, and we wouldn't want to put these guys off. So that was a very interesting party error. But we're going once again. I mean, there's not exactly much to commentate, so I'm sure they wouldn't mind. Danny tries. We've got yellow flags in sector 3. What is that for? Who's had a drama? Nobody. Okay, well, yellow flags for no reason. Gotta love it. Subaru's gaining, but not enough. I think he's going to overlap Lord George, as you see there. But I think that fight is all but over. And yeah, we've got to the boring end of the race. If you made it this far, thank you ever so much. And I apologise, but that's what the rain does. A lot of people said rain spices things up. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it does this. It completely neutralises a race. The drivers just don't have enough grip to chase each other. And like, you look, the smallest gap we've got on circuit is 4.7. which is massive. I don't know if Galactic Skull's back in the car. I would say he's not. His driving style looks very AI based. I don't think he's back in the session just yet. Danny Bin Lahar, what could have been in the dry today? I think it could have been a Renault victory. Had the better dry pace. That strategy would have been interesting. It's clear he went to the Ultras expecting the rain to come a bit sooner than it did. We have in the chat, we had a message that, apologise whoever that message was, that has not come through. For whatever reason, you've either broken the chat rules and a moderator has decided your comment doesn't deserve to be displayed, or you've, I don't know, for some reason your message is not sent. But message 22 does come through there. Danny G says, great comms as always, buddy. What could have been for Lord Jodi? Aye, thank you for the kind words. Nemesis Racing finally deciding that the wet weather tyres were the wrong decision. They would have had increased wear compared to the Inters as well, so disaster gamble. He should have just stuck with the Inters, and it's all gone wrong. But thank you for the kind words, Danny. Yeah, what could have been for Lord Jord? It could have been a good points finish, I think. I don't think he had the pace to contend up there, but he did pit very early for the Inters. It could have been a masterclass. He could have been up there with Subaru, Ryan, and Nemesis before Nemesis made his blunder. But unfortunately, it did not. Crazy, crazy, crazy. But unfortunately, he came out on soft tyres yet again. And, well, he ruined his race, didn't he? There's no way to put that. Nemesis opted for a gamble on the wet weather tyres. Didn't work, and finds himself back where he pretty much began, at the tail end of the points. So he could have had a nice P5 here today. That's a awful mistake by Nemesis. He'll be shouting internally at himself for that one, I'm sure. But Subaru pulled off a masterclass. He's got to be happy with what he's achieved today. He could have got a podium. He just didn't have the pace in the end, and his second stop has proved not to be very good. And Altanovic has been a wizard at managing his tyres today. So he hasn't needed to do that second intermediate stop like we've seen so many drivers do. But unfortunately for Subaru Ryan, that renders him just off the podium. Testermeister, again, the story of what could have been, what should have been. Danny could have won in the dry. I think, honestly, Danny would have won in the dry. But yeah, it's not always the case. Chazza has just been the best all round in the rain, hasn't he, when it came down, push come to shove. Gotta wonder what Nibbler could have done. But Nibbler, I believe he was actually still asleep. I believe that is the common ruse going around in the drivers forum, is that Nibbler was still asleep upon race time. So it's hard for the Aussies in these leagues. They get up so early in the morning to come racing, as Altanovic has taken P2. Danny's gone off. Danny's had a big accident and loses second. The Italian has made an absolute brute, and now he's got no traction whatsoever. Is that a puncture? I think there is. There's a puncture. There's a puncture on the Renault with Danny. Danny's got a puncture. Oh no, he needs to limp his way back to the pits. The podium could come for Subaru Ryan. That is a puncture for Danny. Unbelievable. Danny has gone too far on the Inters. They've finally said c'est la vie, and you can see it's the right rear that's given up on the Renault from a comfortable P2. He will now pit, and Subaru Ryan gets his podium Oh, that is not a way to lose a podium. That is heartbreaking. And he'll likely come out behind his teammate. Hopefully he doesn't have any other damage. That is a nightmare. Anoltanovic moves up into P2. I feel so sorry for Danny. Through no fault of his own, it looks like the tyres just let go. He's either run over some debris. Are they medium combat? Oh, it's gone from bad to worse. It's still chucking it down on the circuit. And Danny is pitted for medium compound tyres. Oh no, he's done the same thing as Lord Jordan. This could render him out of the race completely. He won't have the tyres to get to the end. He's clearly in his fluster. He's flustered to get back in the pits and get that puncture resolved. He's forgot to select what tyres he wanted. And now he's got a limp for a whole lap home on medium tyres to get the inters back on. It's all gone so wrong for Danny. Another story of what could have been today. No grip out there for slick tyres right now. Same story, exact same thing happened to Lord George, which put him in last, a minute off the lead. And the man that overlapped Lord George just a few laps ago finds himself in the Mercedes driver's shoes. And he's doing a very good job. I'll be honest, he's doing an extremely good job to keep it on the road, to nurse it back to the pit lane, to get on them intermediates. But Murcielaga's catching him hand over fist. And he's going to lose P6. He'll probably lose P7 and P8 too. He'll probably go down to the depths of Nemesis. He might battle with Nemesis, I would say. Coming back out on the intermediate tyres, that is a nightmare. No fault of his own. He's, like I say, he's either run over debris or his tyres have become too worn. And it's all gone wrong. Prime Stingray in the chat has confirmed that Nib was asleep. An old Nemesis online racing driver, raced with us back last season, early on I believe, or the season before that, I can't remember. But he did race in NORL at some point. Good to see him back watching the race as always. Ricciardo, heartbroken Italians. Similar story to when Hamilton overtook Raikkonen at Monza Show, and he's staying with it. Danny Ibn Lahar is going to brave it out, and he's going to try stay with it. The rain's easing. Danny's doing a stellar job here. He's decided he'd lose too much time taking another pit stop, so he's just going to try limp around for the last 2 laps. I mean, Murcielaga's going to catch him, and Dougie might catch him as well. It's probably the wise thing to do would be stay out, because he'd definitely come out in P8 at least if he pitted. He's going to chance it. Maybe the rain will stop and he'll be the man with the plan, but as for right now, he's in P5, been hunted down mercilessly by this man, Murcielago in the Red Bull. Goes very wide. The Red Bull can just stop on a dime, and he just gets out of the way. He knows he can't fight it. And through goes Murcielago and Danny Ibn Lahar. Job's a good one. Dougie Afroman will be the next if he can stop making mistakes like that. That would help his cause. Going very slowly, and there goes. Wow, the Alfa Romeos are struggling something fierce in the rain, aren't they? The lad Skull 2's pushing really hard. It's clear that this isn't an AI driver anymore. Lad Skull 2 pushing really hard to try close in and pass Dougie Afroman. But Dougie Afroman can gain on Danny. These two need to work together because they have a position of an extra position each here for each other. Gotta push and not battle each other too hard. Is Danny going to stay out, or is he going to pit this lap? What's he deciding to do? I think he's probably wise just staying out. It's too far gone. He wouldn't pit on the last lap. Where is Chaz on his final lap? Chaz is making his way to the back straight, so we have a little bit of action to watch between Danny and Dougie Afroman and co. Now, these guys won't be on the freshest of intermediates, but they'll have more grip. And he just stays out of the way like a good sport. Danny just lets them through, takes back to the racing line, and you'll just watch the comparison of grip here. Look at that. Not even a contest. That's how little grip Danny has after that mistake. Drops down into P8. And now it's going to be a case of, will he lose out to Nemesis or not? The next man to make a strategy blunder. We'll find out, but as it stands, coming around the final few corners now, he's been the best man for the job, really. In the multiple conditions, it's a story of what could have been in the rain if it didn't come, but it did. And this man was ready for it by 15 seconds and a flawless strategy. Chazza finally takes a win. in 2018 in the NORL series. He's been in his teammate shadow so far this year. Finally takes a crucial victory with his teammate not making the race. He will make a huge dent in his teammate's lead in the championship. Anil Tanovic will bring home a well-deserved 18 points. Ryan brings home a well-deserved podium, as there you go, there answers the question. Nemesis did catch and pass Danny Ibn Laha. Can Lord Jod do it? No, not a chance. Lord Jod will catch in time, unfortunately for him. Danny will hold on for P9, but a well-earned podium for Subaru Ryan at the expense of Danny's puncture. Testo Meister will come for the next few corners. Up to the line. And take P4, Murcielago P5. Now, one last duet from the Alfa Romeos. Need to be more aggressive than that. Galactic Skull 2 if he can push. And he is pushing. The Sambas might have a little battle of their own up to the line, but for right now it looks like the holding station. Dougie's holding on well. What could have been for Galactic Skull 2 if he didn't disconnect halfway through the race and his AI had to take over? And he just sends it. He gave it everything he had in the final corner, but Dougie Afroman takes P6. Galactic Skull 2, P7, up to the line. Nemesis Racing will take P8 away from Danny Ibn Laha. Lord Jod's already crossed the line, so he's finished and will not catch Danny. Danny, you can't help but feel bad. No fault of his own, a puncture takes him out the podium, out of P2 and down into P9. Nightmare, but Chazza takes the win here today. He's the man of the hour. And there you go. Here is your podium then, which will consist of Chazza in the Ferrari, Anil Tanovic in the McLaren, and of course Subaru STI Ryan in the Red Bull. Good job to these guys today. They all earned the place on the podium. Very unfortunate for Danny, but that's racing. And it's all happened. Chaz says it was a tough one. He was comfortable, really. Once he got away from Subaru's magnificent undercut, overcut with his soft tyre strategy. You had the best pace in the rain today, my man, and you got the victory, so well done. Congratulations on that one. As we ironically look at a completely dry track, and I'm getting rewarded for an online race, even though I was spectator, so that's interesting. But there you go. We have Chazza takes the victory, Anil from Anil Tanovic, and then Subaru Ryan in P3. Testa Meister Kids P4. Murcielago had a good day in the office P5. Dougie Afroman and Galactic Skull 2 brought him a solid 5th row of the grid. I'm sorry, 4th row of the grid. Yeah. For the Alfa Romeos, Nemesis Racing P8, Danny P9 after Heartbreak Hotel. No fault of his own, of course. And Lord Jordan finishes off P10. Ragnar, Kevin, and Beamer all failed to finish. Beamer had a crash, then was disqualified. And then the other two had crashes that took them out of the race as well. So China takes no prisoners. And it certainly didn't today. Ladies and gentlemen, that's been round 3 of the Nemesis Online Racing F1 2018 Championship. I hope you've enjoyed. We will see you next time for round 4, of course. If you're a fan of Nemesis Online Racing or just racing in general, come join us on Wednesday evening, where you can see the NORL FIA GT3 series once again. And you'll see us for round, I believe we're up to round number 5 in that too. So I'm sure you guys will enjoy that. But ever so much, guys, thanks you so much for watching. Catch you on Wednesday for round 5 of the FIA GT3 series. If not, we will catch you same time next week for F1 once again, as Chazza will likely take the lead of the championship and Nibbler will have to make sure he shows up and regain that from his teammate in round 4. Until then, guys, have a good one, enjoy the rest of your evening, and goodbye.